Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I am bringing you my list of the top 10 cards from Legendary Beat, except it's not just my list of top 10 cards from Legendary Beat. You see, there is a lovely German chap, Mr. Stolles, or German Mr. Agron, if you prefer, and lovely dude who I chat to about Pokemon a lot. And he came to me and said, hey, Wassy, how would you feel if we worked together on these top 10 lists, and then I'll make a video in German on my channel, and you make a video in English on your channel? And I went, that sounds like a wonderful idea. So do check out his YouTube channel. There is a link in the description. It is in German, but if you speak German, or you've got any German-speaking friends, or you want to learn German, check it out, would ya? Because this was fun, and having someone else working on these lists does rein me in just a little bit. Though I will say the pair of us both had the same number one, and it wasn't particularly close. I do want to give a couple of honourable mentions just before we get rolling here. I am quite a fan of Raikou Amazing Rare. It's got a super awkward energy cost of Grass, Lightning, Metal, but it does 120 to your opponent's active Pokemon, and it does 120 to one of their bench Pokemon. I do think there is a lot of potential here. It's one that I could see people making work. Zekrom giving automatic paralysis is another one that did get consideration for the list. Free energy, 130, automatic paralysis, and it does 60 damage to itself. Very nice Pokemon. Could be automatic paralysis, but I do worry just a little bit that there are too many switching cards around at the moment, and it's just not going to end up being quite good enough. But I am still a fan. Zarude V is another one that came fairly close to making the list here. Zarude V for 2 grass energy does 100 damage, and you attach 2 basic energy from your hand to your bench Pokemon in any way you like, and you heal all damage from all Pokemon that you attach energy to in this way. That one could be fun. And one that I didn't consider putting on the list was Alchemy VMAX. However, Alchemy VMAX could be amazing. For 2 psychic energy, you get to discard as many energy cards from your Pokemon as you like, dealing 60 damage for each energy card discarded in this way. I do not think we have the right support for this nowadays, especially with Malamar rotating out, but this is one that could be amazing in the future if we get the right cards revealed. You have been warned. So coming in at number 10, we've got Jirachi Amazing Rare. And I am fully aware that I like Jirachi a lot more than a lot of other people like Jirachi. Jirachi's got an ability that lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one in your hand and the other one back to the top of your deck. But it doesn't go to sleep or anything like that, and it's got free retreat with U-turn board. I could see this being a really nice consistency Pokemon. Plus it can get any cards, not just item cards. Now as for the attack, it's 1 psychic, 1 fighting, 1 metal, which is super awkward. But you search your deck for 7 basic energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. So, yes, it's super expensive, but it's another one of these that somebody is going to make it work, and it's going to be a little bit ridiculous. Maybe you get the energy with an Arceus and Dialga and Palkia, for instance. Either way, it's one that's got a whole bunch of potential. In at number 9, Togekiss VMAX. Now this was one that I initially had as an honourable mention, but Mr. Stolles here convinced me to pop it on the list proper. We've got free retreat, which is a big bonus, and for 2 energy, it's an evolved Pokemon, so bearing in mind that means you can use triple acceleration energy, or, you can just use Welder. It's not hard to pay the energy here. Tapu Koko, Prism Star, and attachment for the turn. Boom, off you go. Really easy to pay the energy here. You do 120 damage, and you search for any 2 cards in your deck and put them into your hand. Now, I don't think for a second that this is going to be the next big deck. I don't think many people are going to be playing that in and of itself. I think it is going to be an extra fun little tech that backs up particular decks. But you know what? I am totally okay with this. Because what we've got here is a card with free retreat, so once you've attacked you can get out the active. that allows you to take a KO while searching for any 2 cards. And anytime my opponent's got a Pokemon with 120 HP or less remaining, I'm going to want to get a KO with this so that I can search out any 2 cards to set me up perfectly for next turn. I think this could be very, very nice, but I do think it is a support Pokemon rather than being its own deck. In at number 8, we've got Dialga. Now, Dialga's another one that the lovely Mr. Stollis did convince me to pop a little bit higher, and I think he was right about this. You see, Dialga's got 1 attack we're really worried about, 1 colourless energy, and you attach up to 2 metal energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way that you like. And this is one of those Pokemon which is absolutely perfect for those turns, those games, where you just don't have very much. Where the first turn or 2 are going to be very slow and you just need to get rolling. And every turn you use Dialga, that's 2 more energy on the field. And I know that metal Pokemon have Metal Saucer, but in a weird way, I actually think that makes Dialga better. Because it means you're going to want to get energy in the discard for either of these, but it means in the early game you focus on Dialga. You get your first couple metal Pokemon rolling with Dialga, and then you've got your Metal Saucer there for the mid to late game. Or you just go nuts early game, accelerating a bunch of energy with both Dialga and Metal Saucer. Either way, if I'm playing a metal deck and I need to get some energy early game, this is my choice. Coming in at number 7, we've got Allister. And I think it is a mark of this set that Allister is pretty much hands down the best supporter card we're getting in the set. And it's only coming in at number 7 in what is a comparatively weak set, I'm going to have to be honest. Now, as a draw card, it lets you draw 3 cards. It's no better than Hop, and nobody thinks Hop is good. But after you've drawn 3 cards, you discard 3 cards from your hand. And that's how Allister becomes very interesting. Now, of course, there are things like Mismagius that let you draw until you've got X number of cards in your hand. So use Allister. Oh, now I've drawn my Mismagius. Now I can discard 3 cards to draw more with Mismagius. Yay! But there's also a bunch of cards that play from the discard pile. Things like Alolan Executor that does more damage for each type of energy in your discard. Things like the Zekrom that does more damage for each Pokemon in your discard. And essentially those kind of decks that want to play from the discard pile here, they are going to love this. I said Zekrom, I meant Zoroark. They are going to really enjoy the fact that you're able to bin all these cards from your hand, and that's where Allister comes in. Allister will not be a new staple supporter card, but it will be very, very nice for cards that want to play from the discard or for emptying out your hand. I mean, if nothing else, if you're fearing a reset stamp, you can literally just discard 3 useless cards so that you're less vulnerable to something like a reset stamp. Coming in at number 6, we've got Stone Fighting Energy. And I feel like Stone Fighting Energy is going to be one of the more frustrating cards in my Pokemon analysis career. What it does is it reduces damage done to the fighting Pokemon it's attached to by 20 damage. And when I revealed this card, I gave it 5 Wassies. I said it was really good, and a bunch of people said, Wassie, you're an idiot. You're wrong, it's not good. And then Coalossal V started doing quite well in Japan. It's a really good card. We'll get there in a minute. And a winning deck was shared with 4 Stone Fighting Energy. And when I pointed this out, people went, obviously Stone Fighting Energy is going to be a 4 of. So I don't know whether Stone Fighting Energy is an amazing card that's going to be a 4 of in every fighting deck, or a terrible card that isn't good enough and it should have just been Strong Energy. People don't seem to be able to make up their mind. Here's my reason why Stone Fighting Energy is so good. This is going to keep happening. Like every single good fighting deck in the near future is going to play 4 of these, and we're heading into a format where all the good Pokemon are weak to fighting. Now, there are some types like Fire, which accelerate energy with Welder and search energy with Giant Hearth and Volcanion and all of that need basic energy. Maybe Fire is not going to love special energy. But unless fighting gets us compelling reason to play basic energy like fire does, you can expect 4 of these in every relevant fighting deck from here until the day it rotates out. It is going to see a phenomenal amount of play. In at number 5, we've got Hero's Medal. And Hero's Medal is literally Island Challenge Amulet, but instead of reducing HP by 100 and giving up 1 less prize on EXs and GXs, it reduces your maximum HP by 100 and means you give up 1 less prize for VMAXs. And this is just a numbers game. Generally speaking, your opponent has to KO 2 VMAXs, they take 3 prizes off each, they win the game. If each of your VMAXs, or your first 2 at least, have a Hero's Medal attached to them, then your opponent has to knock out 2 of those, 4 prizes, and then a third full power one to actually win the game. So if you take something like a Dragapult VMAX, that has got 320 HP. So if you have 2 Dragapult KO'd with a Hero's Medal attached, your opponent has saved themselves 200 damage. They have done 200 damage less than they needed to KO those 2 Dragapult. And then you stick a 320 HP Dragapult in the active, and now your opponent has to do, in total, 120 more damage in order to take enough prizes to win the game. And that's my point here. This is going to be great in any VMAX deck that can handle it. If you struggle to accelerate energy and get set up, this is going to mean you're going to have to do that more often, and it's probably not worth it. But in general VMAX decks, where you can make your opponent KO a third VMAX to win the game, this is going to be really, really good. Coming in at number 4, we've got BEEDRILL, etc. Now, I initially had this at number 2. This is one of the examples where having another lovely person doing the list reined me in a little bit. BEEDRILL has got the exact same ability as the Greninja GX that came around in Detective Pikachu. If it is the only card in your hand, you can play it from your hand to the bench and draw 3 cards. Well, if Greninja GX never saw a huge amount of play, why would this? Many reasons. Number 1, it's got free retreat, so you can whack it on your bench, and it actually gives you an advantage of free retreat, rather than having a retreat cost of 2, which means you could be stuck in the active, and that's annoying. It's a single prize Pokemon, not a 2 prize liability sitting on the bench. It can be reused with Scoop Up Net. If you've got a BEEDRILL on the bench, then Scoop Up Net, if you've got no other cards in your hand, draws you 3 cards. That's phenomenal. In any grass deck, I refuse to believe this won't be a one-off, because you'll be playing Turffield Stadium, assuming you're playing Evolved Pokemon, obviously. So anytime you've got 0 cards in hand, use Turffield Stadium to search for this, bench it, boom, you're off. Evolution Incense turns into draw 3. Great Ball could turn into draw 3. It is a single prize Pokemon with free retreat in a world where Scoop Up Net exists. That's why it is so much better than Greninja. And to be fair, I do believe this is so much better than Greninja. Like, I don't think this is even close. It's a phenomenal ability, and I'm going to be putting it as a one-of in every deck that I can find space, because it's a stage 2, so you can't even start with it. Love it. Now, there are a couple of others I do want to pop in here as well. We've got Manectric, that has the same ability that the Beware from Guardians Rising did. When you play it from your hand to your bench to evolve, you draw 3 cards. And again, with Scoop Up Net in the format, I could see people using this as a little bit of a draw engine, because it turns Scoop Up Net into draw 3 cards. Plus, it's also got free retreat, which is another really, really big advantage. And Trumbeak. Trumbeak's a very nice one. When you play it from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and any basic energy you find you can attach to your Pokemon in any way you like. Bearing in mind, we've got the Oranguru from Sword and Shield that lets you swap a card in your hand for a card on the top of your deck. So really, you should be guaranteed 1 energy with Trumbeak, and then you've got a chance that one of the other 2 will hit as well. I do think Manectric and Trumbeak deserve to be mentioned here, though I do think BEEDRILL is a cut above the pair of them. But make no mistake about it, these non-GX Scoop Up Net Pokemon really could be game-changing for some decks. They are my personal favourite cards in the set, though I'm not sure they're the best. In at number 3, we've got LUGHA. And LUGHA is one of these that could be absolute trash garbage, or could be one of the very best cards in the entire format. Now, LUGHA for 4 energy does 250 damage. That is a huge amount of damage. You can pay that attack cost with a twin energy and a welder, so if you go second, you can legitimately be hitting 250 damage turn 1. There must be a downside. Well, yes, of course there's a downside. If your opponent has 5 or fewer cards in hand, this attack does nothing. So your opponent has to have at least 6 cards in hand. Now, one fun little thing about this, of course, is that your opponent can play around it, but your opponent plays around it by not having cards in their hand. Their way of thwarting your plan here is to empty their hand of cards. Brilliant. You're going to try and beat me by making sure you've got fewer cards in hand, and therefore fewer options to win the game in future turns. I'm not upset about this. The problem is we are not having much fun in terms of hand manipulation. Really, and I did go through this in the video, I'll link all the videos on these in the description. Really, the only option we've got is Reset Stamp. It will put your opponent to a hand of 6 if they haven't taken any prizes. So for instance, turn 1. And turn 1 going second, welder with 2 fire energy, twin energy, Reset Stamp, 250. There are a couple of tag teams that will survive that, and Waylord V, obviously. Other than that, you are literally KOing anything on your first turn. And remember, it's linked to your opponent's cards in hand, not yours. So if your opponent doesn't take a prize, you can just Reset Stamp them again and take another prize, and just keep going. Until they knock out LUGHA, you can just constantly Reset Stamp and take another prize. It's awkward, but it's phenomenal. Coming in at number 2, ZAMA ZENTA. And I didn't think this was going to be as high as number 2, but looking at all the other cards on the list, I do feel good about it being in at number 2. Now, for one card, again, it's a fighting Pokemon. We love fighting Pokemon at the moment. For 1 colorless energy, 30 damage, and you attach a basic energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. Bearing in mind, if you're behind on prizes with a martial arts dojo out, you're doing 70 damage, which will KO a bunch of regularly played Pokemon like Galarian Zigzagoon, as well as doing 140 with weakness, which is pretty gosh darn good. Add a Vitality Band, and you'll actually get a 1-hit KO on a Dedenne, which is a bit ridiculous. And then, of course, for free energy, now it's 1 lightning, 1 fighting, 1 metal, but we'll get there in a minute, 180 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon VMAX. I adore this. Firstly, VMAXs are looking better and better after rotation, and secondly, 180 damage will get basically, well, get anything that's weak, any single prize Pokemon, and it'll even get a few other things that we do see played around here and there, some of the weaker 2 prize Pokemon. It's really good. As for the attack cost, it looks super awkward, but Karate Belt will bring the cost down by 1 fighting energy. Tapu Koko Prism Star will attach a lightning energy, and then you attach a metal for the turn and you're done. If you're behind on prizes, you can legitimately get this attack rolling in a single turn, and if you're not behind on prizes, that first attack, well, you attach an energy with the first attack, attach again, boom, now you're hitting 180 and you're rolling. There is a lot to love about ZAMA ZENTA here. This could be a monster. But in at number 1, it's Coalossal VMAX. And incidentally, I often say there's tiers in these videos. This is in a tier on its own. This is number 1 by a gigantic margin, and it is not even close. I mentioned a few times that when I did my Coalossal V video, I put as my headline, what's the point of Coalossal V? I thought it was absolutely pointless. Not terrible, but just pointless given the other cards we had. And then Coalossal VMAX came along. Now 4 energy 240 is very, very nice, because you'll be getting a whole bunch of stuff. Basically any Pokemon V, anything that's weak, any single prize Pokemon, pretty much anything other than tag teams and VMAXs that aren't weak. But for 1 energy, you do 40 damage. You then discard the top card of your deck. If it is an energy card, you may attach it to this Pokemon, and you do 130 damage. Oh. And bearing in mind, we got Oranguru to guarantee that you will. Yes, this will allow you to get a stone fighting energy from your hand onto him. Put it on top of your deck with Oranguru, and then attach it with the attack. And 130 is enough to KO anything that's weak other than Eternatus VMAX. But if you're behind on prizes and you got a martial arts dojo, you'll get that as well. We are moving into a format where a whole bunch of Pokemon are weak to fighting. And they are all going to be dreading Coalossal VMAX because single energy KO on any of them. And if you're not hitting for weakness, that first attack will get your second attack rolling not that slowly. And then you can be hitting 240 against anything. Plus you got 330 HP. This is number 1 by a bit of a wide margin. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would you? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.